So you're thinking about making a move to Cibolo, Texas. In this video, we're going to give you the good, the bad, the pros, the cons of living in Cibolo, Texas. If this is your first time to our channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in San Antonio, Texas and its surrounding areas, make sure you subscribe and tap the bell for notifications to make sure that you are one of the first to get informed on the San Antonio market. My name is Katie Powers, and my husband Steven Garza and I hear from people just like you every single day that are looking to make a move. Whether you're 6 days or 6 months away from transitioning into the San Antonio and surrounding areas, we would absolutely love to hear from you. All of our information is listed right below in the description box. We would be honored to be your realtors of choice while making a smooth transition into the San Antonio and surrounding areas. Now let's jump in to Cibolo's pros and cons. Pro number one, the tax rate. The tax rate in Cibolo is roughly 2%, where in San Antonio, it can be anywhere from 2.5 to 2.7, closer to that 3% range, depending on the location in San Antonio. Now, what does that mean for you? As a home buyer, if you're purchasing a home at the price of $400,000, using a VA loan, which is the most used type of loan for the Cibolo area, you are looking at a tax rate of 2%, and your interest rate will vary. Of course, that depends on what the current interest rate is for the market that you're buying in, the time frame, as well as your credit score, your debts, your liabilities, your assets, all of those things that a lender would be happy to work that out for you. But for now, we're just going to give you a vague overview so you can see the importance of how that tax rate, how that lower tax rate benefits you. So currently, the interest rate is hovering around 7% as of March of 2024. Now for a VA, you do get a little lower on that interest rate, so you'll be around a 6.8. That interest rate with a 2% tax burden for Cibolo, your payment is looking about $3,600. Now that same loan in San Antonio with a higher tax rate, it would put your payment closer to $3,800. So it's roughly about a $200 savings per month. Now, when you add that up over a 30-year note, that's a lot of money. So the tax rate is very important and a great pro for living in Cibolo.
Pro number two, Cibolo is a relatively new city. It was founded in 1965, according to niche.com, but the growth of Cibolo has really come in the last 20 years. In 2020, the population was right over 32,000, and with that growth comes new home communities. When I was doing some searching, I found over 13 new home communities ranging from 300,000 all the way up to 850,000. So what that means is you have a ton of selection for new home communities. If your budget's 300, 400, 500, and so on, you can select from a new home community, or you can also look at the pre-owns. And even our pre-owns are also fairly new with the growth in the last 20 years. So that means newer roofs, newer AC, just newer construction in general, newer materials, which generally are better than what was used in the old.
Pro number 3, location. Now the location of Cibolo is wonderful because you are less than an hour to Austin, roughly about 45 minutes. You are 15 minutes at most really to San Antonio, the outskirts of San Antonio, and about 30 minutes to downtown San Antonio. You are 10 minutes to New Braunfels, and you are about 20 to 30 minutes to San Marcos. So you're just really centrally located to some really large cities, activities, all of those great things. And of course, for our military community, especially our Air Force community, Randolph Air Force Base is in Cibolo. So that's a big attraction to a lot of people that are moving into the area. So just overall, the location is amazing. Make sure you check out our Cibolo map video to get a really good understanding of the location of Cibolo to everything and to see how close it is to everything.
Pro number 4 is outdoor activities. Cibolo is riddled with little parks ranging from your neighborhood community parks all the way up to parks that cater to families that, just want to get out for the day and have a playground, a basketball court, do some walking trails. Cibolo is great for that. The outdoor activities are wonderful. On top of that, you have Canyon Lake right up the road, which is our main lake for San Antonio, where we do a lot of boating. There's a marina out there. You can do some fishing, some swimming. Just a great way to spend the day and not spend hours in the car. We also have Calaveras Lake to the south of Cibolo. Not so much a swimming lake. It's a lake that has a ton of fishing in it. If you love fishing for redfish, it's one of the only lakes in Texas where you can actually catch a saltwater fish. And you can also catch bass, catfish, that kind of stuff. It's just a fun lake to go do some fishing and hanging out with the family. And lastly, we have Suns Island. This is a little hidden gem right outside of Cibolo. You can do some river activities such as kayaking, paddleboarding, just do some swimming, hanging out, snorkeling. It's a spring-fed river that runs 2 miles. It's also a resort that you can rent out for the day, or you can get a glamping cabin or tent that are AC'd, which is great. Fun, close experience, just a great time all around.
Pro number 5, Cibolo is very veteran friendly. Now, of course, because we have Randolph Air Force Base in Cibolo, it does draw a lot of veterans. Now, even if you watch our Cibolo new build community vlog or tour, we spoke to a lot of new home reps, and every single one of them said 90% of their buyers are veterans or active duty military. So when I say it's a veteran friendly community, the majority of the citizens of Cibolo are either active duty or veterans. So there's a lot of wonderful things that come with that. You're surrounded by people who have like experiences, they're very like-minded. And for me, I really like it because it's a safety feature, right? You know you have somebody looking out for you and watching your back at all times, watching your kids playing in the street, watching your house when you're out on vacation, or, your spouse is deployed and you're home alone. You have that community looking out for you, which is a huge, huge benefit and why it made our pro list for Cibolo. Now let's jump in to the cons.
Con number 1, like I mentioned earlier in con number 2, is growth. With growth comes construction, unfortunately. Cibolo is growing leaps and bounds, and with that, with all the new home communities, you have construction. The roads are taking a beating from all the big trucks carrying all the materials. You have the labor coming and going for the new home construction. And so all of that, all the main arteries in Cibolo are being used constantly with all the new growth, and it takes a toll on the roads. Roads have to be repaired. Roads have to be widened to accommodate all the growth and the new homeowners coming out to Cibolo. So unfortunately, con number 1.
Con number 2, lack of high-paying jobs. So because Cibolo is a suburb, it's predominantly homes. There's not a whole lot of white-collar jobs in Cibolo unless you are active duty and working or stationed at Randolph. So you will have to either work from home or travel to work. Most of the clients that are purchasing in the Cibolo area either are military or they are commuting into San Antonio. I've even met a couple that are commuting up to the Kyle, South Austin area because the cost of living is cheaper and Tesla just opened up a huge facility there. So either way, if you move to Cibolo, you're gonna most likely have to drive to work unless you're stationed at Randolph.
Con number 3, I-35. If you talk to any of the locals, we all hate being on I-35, especially that stretch. I-35 stretches all the way from Mexico, all the way up to Minnesota, but that little stretch between South San Antonio and North Austin is one of the busiest stretches in Texas, and you feel it. Even on a good day, when traffic is light, there's still traffic, but generally, it's always bumper to bumper. It still moves. As locals, we're just not used to going 35 on a highway where we normally travel 65 to 70 miles an hour. So with that, I-35 is the con, because if you live in Cibolo and you're not working in Cibolo, if you're having to travel outside or you're not going to Randolph, you're gonna be using I-35.
Con number 4, the fast-paced growth. Now, I know Steve mentioned this on the pro side because there are a lot of new community builds that you get to choose from, just lots of inventory. But one thing that I do want to point out as a con is to make sure, just a plug-in for us local realtors, make sure you have a good buyer representation and you have that realtor, because the landscape is always changing in Cibolo because it's growing so fast. So if that new build rep tells you that this beautiful farmland behind your backyard fence is going to be that way forever, there's no guarantee, especially not in Cibolo, because it's growing. There is still a lot of farmland and ranches in Cibolo, but they are getting bought out at an alarming rate, specifically for new home communities. So you just want to make sure that you're represented and that you don't buy a home expecting your view or the green space behind it to stay that way. So that is why it made our con list.
The 5th and final con is resell. Buying a home is an investment on your future, but you have to be aware that buying a house and holding it for 1 or 2 years is not a great investment for Cibolo in particular. You have so many new home communities in the area. Trying to compete against new home communities and the incentives that the builders have to offer, it's just not recommended. So if you're planning on buying in Cibolo, plan for the long term. Know that you're going to hold that house for 3, 4 or even 5 years. So if you are planning on buying in Cibolo, just know that it's recommended to hold that home for 3 years or more. And if you're using a VA loan, we recommend 4 or 5 years to let that asset appreciate. And that way you're not having to compete against the new home communities and the incentives they have to offer. That does it for the pros and cons of Cibolo, Texas. Don't forget to check out our other Cibolo videos to learn more about Cibolo and its great communities that it has to offer. Whether moving in 6 days or 6 months, Katie and I would love to be your realtors of choice so we can help make your move a smooth transition. See you on the next one.